A high-ranking guest is expected at the airport of Hamburg-Fuhlsbüttel on the 16th of May 1960. His Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Federation of Malaya, the Tunku Abdul Rahman, is going to pay a 6 days visit to the Federal Republic of Germany. This is the first time that a chief of the government of the Federation of Malaya, which was formed in 1957, has ever entered the soil of the Federal Republic of Germany. For his reception, Mayor Brahe and Mayor Engelhardt and their party have arrived at the airport, accompanied by the German ambassador in Kuala Lumpur, Dr. Vogel, and an official representative of the German Foreign Office. The star and half moon of this Southeast Asian state fly proudly over the airport. The High Guest and his party have taken residence at the famous Four Seasons Hotel in Hamburg. From there, the trip goes through the inner parts of the city to the City Hall. The Prime Minister of the Malayan Federation, who at home is called the Tunku, which means the Prince, pays a courtesy visit to the city and the state government, the Senate. Conducted by Mayor Brahe, he passes into the stately festival hall of the City Hall and enters his name in the Golden Book of Hamburg. The signature of the Tunku in this book will in future bear witness of this visit, which in spite of the unfriendly weather went on in an atmosphere of unusual cordiality and friendship from the first to the very last minute. After the visit to the Senate chambers, a round trip through Hamburg's port has been arranged. The guests proceed to the São Paulo landing stages. The head of the Malayan government goes aboard the state launch for an extensive tour through this major port, which is called Germany's Gate to the World. Amongst the party of the Malayan Prime Minister are His Excellency the Minister for Health and Social Welfare in the government of Kuala Lumpur, the Right Honourable Dato Ong, His Excellency the Tunku Ismail, Ambassador of the Malayan Federation in Paris, and His Excellency the Right Honourable Inchi Ghazali, the State Secretary in the Foreign Ministry. Representatives of the Senate and the city of Hamburg explain to their high guests the importance and capacity of the port of Hamburg, which also serves as Germany's gate to Malaya. The beginnings of the history of trade relations between Malaya and Germany date back to 1840. The special interest of the guests from the faraway ocean-bound Southeast Asian peninsula of Malaya is directed to new ships under construction, nearing their completion in the docks and building yards of well-known Hamburg yards. These ships will also contribute to the further strengthening of German-Malayan relations. Next on the Hamburg program is a visit to the office of the construction senator at Hamburg's Stadthaus Bridge. Senator Dr. Nevermann conducts the Prime Minister through the model room. City engineer Professor Heberbrand explains the principles of city planning, according to which Hamburg, so heavily devastated during the war, has been reconstructed. A detailed, true-to-scale model enables the guests to gain an idea of the measures undertaken in Hamburg to make housing and transport arrangements truly worthy of all the requirements of this modern world city. The official cars have driven up to the Four Seasons Hotel again. The population cordially watches the departure of the Malayan government delegation to Fuhlsbüttel Airport. At the entry to the airport, the mayor of the Hanseatic city and representatives of the Senate and of the various authorities have again appeared to say goodbye to the Tunku. Mayor Bra receives a farewell gift. With the best wishes for a further happy trip through Germany, Hamburg says goodbye to its high guests who fly on to Berlin. The German capital was heavily devastated during the war. Now it has been given an entirely new face. The Federal Republic supports the great endeavors made by the city of Berlin in its measures aiming at making Berlin capable of playing its role as the capital of a reunified Germany, the hope all Germans so fondly cherish. The Soviet sector begins at the Brandenburg Gate, the landmark of this metropolis along the River Spree. In the Schöneberger City Hall, a reception is held for the Prime Minister by the governing mayor of Berlin, Herr Willy Brandt. The Tunku enters his name in the Golden Book of Berlin, signifying that Berlin has gained one more friend to support its struggle for endangered freedom. In the presence of Her Britannic Majesty's Ambassador to Germany, Sir Christopher Steele, the governing mayor presents to his guest a model of the Berlin Bell of Freedom as a token of friendship and remembrance. For its continued existence in peace and freedom, Berlin needs friends all over the world, and it is in this struggle for peace and liberty that the sounds of the large bell serve as a symbol. A visit to the refugee camp at Marienfelde arouses the keen and warm-hearted interest of the head of the Malayan government, where the Tunku has the human problems of refugees from the Soviet-occupied zone of Germany outlined to him. At the time of his visit every day, several hundred people have sought political asylum here. Expropriation of land and enforced collectivization by the communist rulers in Pankow have driven them away from their homes. A skilled film amateur himself, the Tunku shoots a strip of the camp life of refugees at Marienfelde. The destination of this city tour is one of the most impressive buildings in Berlin, the new Congress Hall. The round trip takes the guests also to the zone boundary. The Brandenburg Gate already stands on Soviet-controlled territory. The Prime Minister of Malaya is himself informed in all details about the division of the city and the resulting political situation. The Berlin visit of the Tunku ends with a visit to Filem, the residence of the commanding officer of the British sector of Berlin, Major General Delacour. A British Guard of Honor pays its military respect to its high guest. On the River Rhine, the largest internal waterway of Germany, the old university city of Bonn awaits the guest from Kuala Lumpur. Bonn at present is the provisional seat of the federal German government. It is in this renowned city that in 1770 the famous German composer Ludwig van Beethoven was born. Pouring rain on this Thursday cannot disturb the Federal Chancellor Dr. Adenauer as he awaits his Malayan colleague at the airport of Cologne, Bonn, Van. With him, the representatives of the diplomatic corps and of the federal government have appeared, amongst them the Federal Minister of Defense, Herr Strauss. The Guard of Honor presents arms as the aircraft from Berlin slowly taxis up to the buildings. The Prime Minister of the Malayan Federation and Dr. Adenauer exchange a few hearty words of greeting and welcome. The Federal Chancellor gives shelter to his guest under his own umbrella. Even this rain cannot detract from the keen interest of the press and public in this visit. Under the flags of the Malayan Federation and of the Federal Republic of Germany, the national anthem of the country of the guests solemnly sounds over the airfield. Tunku Abdul Rahman receives the report of the officer commanding the Guard of Honor of the Federal Army, and then inspects the troops to the tune of a military march. And now the official welcome. Dr. Adenauer said, "Once more a hearty welcome, and I should like to say that I am not responsible for the weather." In his reply, the high guest says that no thunderstorm, whatever its force, can in any way affect the relations between the two countries that are close friends. The Prime Minister delivers his greetings on behalf of his country to the German people. After the umbrellas have done their service, Dr. Adenauer accompanies the Tunku to the Königshof Hotel, where the guests will reside during their Bonn visit. On the morning of the following day, a police escort of honor conducts the official cars to the city hall of the federal capital. Tunku Abdul Rahman is welcomed by the mayor, Herr Daniels, who awaits him on the stairs of the city hall. Accompanied by the Bonn mayor and the chief of protocol, Ambassador Freiherr von Braun, the Tunku walks up to the landing of the stairs. A band of the Federal Navy gives an open-air concert in honor of the state visitor. In his welcoming speech, Mayor Daniels finds sincere words of friendship for the rising young Asian country, and for the man who shapes its political fate. Tunku Abdul Rahman replies by an address of hearty thanks. The mayor presents a painting as a remembrance of Bonn. Tunku Abdul Rahman returns this present by giving the city a precious handmade candlestick. And then he signs in the golden book of the city of Bonn. In the Palais Hamburg, the official residence of the Federal Chancellor, the Tunku presents to the Federal Chancellor costly pieces of Malayan hand embroidery and a richly decorated walking stick. Beside the Federal Chancellor, the Minister of State in the Foreign Office, Dr. van Scherpenberg. The ensuing discussions are frank and friendly and interesting for both partners. After the visit with the Federal Chancellor, Dr. Adenauer, there are official talks in the Foreign Office. The head of the Foreign Office, Herr von Brentano, is abroad. Instead, the Minister for Federal Affairs, Dr. von Meckartz, welcomes the head of the Malayan government. The subject of the discussions is the further strengthening of the economic and cultural relations between Malaya and Germany. The spirit of cordial friendship apparent during the talks reveals the high degree of agreement in the assessment of all essential international questions. During the following press conference in the Press and Information Office of the Federal Government, the statesman from Kuala Lumpur, by his frank and well-measured statements, wins the attention and respect of the press correspondents assembled here. The Prime Minister on this occasion said that his country, which itself had to gather bitter experience with communism, would not take up diplomatic relations with the Soviet zone. His visit to Berlin, he said, had shown him the incomparatively better reconstruction of West Berlin and had impressed him by the difference between the relaxed and happy expression on the faces of West Berliners compared with what could be seen in East Berlin. The afternoon of this day finds our visitors from the South Asian Constitutional Monarchy guests of the Federal President in Bonn's Villa Hammerschmidt. The Prime Minister and his party enter their names in the guest book in the hall. The meeting with the Federal President, Dr. Lubke, too, went on in an atmosphere of great cordiality. Small presents help preserve friendship, a German proverb says. It could as well be a Malayan proverb. The social climax and end of the official program is the great reception given by the Federal Chancellor, Dr. Adenauer, in honor of His Excellency the Prime Minister on the Petersburg near Bonn. At the beginning of this festive evening, the members of the diplomatic corps, representatives of the federal government, prominent men of science and of the arts, of industry, and high officers of the Federal Army and their ladies are introduced to the guests. The Federal Foreign Minister, von Brentano, who had returned to Bonn in the meantime, is also present. The amiable, fine courtesy of the guest of honor contributes much to the success of this grand occasion of political and social life in Bonn. With the progression of the evening, contacts become closer. members of Bonn's prominent society meet in stimulated discussions at the cold buffet. It is only with a keen regret of parting that Federal Minister von Meckartz and Minister of State von Scherpenberg see the visitor off the following morning to travel on to Duisburg. The road passes amongst smoking chimneys, symbols of the Ruhr district, the very heart of Germany's industry. The car with the pennant of the Malayan Federation stops in front of the head office building of DMAG, the famous German engineering company at Duisburg. The Tunku is welcomed by representatives of the board of DMAG. The Tunku is conducted through several of the impressive buildings by the directors. DMAG is one of the leading German manufacturers of machinery. Electric trains and massive engines, cranes and bridges, and even entire rolling mills and steel plants are produced here. The Malayan government is highly interested in a close economic cooperation with Germany. The sending of German engineers and experts to Malaya is planned. After the tour of the plant, a trip through the port of Duisburg follows. The Tunku and his party obtain an opportunity to see the vast industrial facilities of Duisburg from the waterside. During the trip, economic problems are discussed. Almost 3/4 of the territory of the Malayan Federation is covered by tropical forests. Economically, the Malayan Federation is one of the most staple states in Asia. 2/5 of the world's production of rubber and of tin come from Malaya. Amongst the most important purchasers of Malayan rubber is the Federal Republic of Germany. German exports to the Malayan Federation have been mainly consumer goods, motor vehicles, radio and photographic equipment, and electrical equipment. Both countries hope for a further strengthening of their trade relations. When the launch returned, many observers showed their friendly feelings for the visitor from Kuala Lumpur. Wide circles of the German population, with great sympathy, observed the independent progress of the Southeast Asian states into a better future. The visit of the Malayan Prime Minister in Germany draws to its end. The official cars have arrived at the German-Belgian border near Aachen, where representatives of the Royal Belgian government wait for the delegation to accompany it to Brussels. The Tunku and his party are bid goodbye by the chief of the protocol, by Dr. Vogel, the German ambassador in Kuala Lumpur, and by his honorary escort during the trip through Germany. The cars, now vehicles of the Royal Belgian government, move on. Germany has said a final goodbye to the Prime Minister of the Malayan Federation, an upright and respected friend of the Federal Republic of Germany.